right, guys, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the stream. My name is Derek Mitchell. If you're new here, I'm a graphic designer, web developer, creative director. And today I'm working on a project for a client. We're building a brand. It's a fun brand, actually. It's a lot of fun. I'm really enjoying it. And today what we're going to do is package up those files so the client can actually use the logo, and then also start building some style guides. So the fonts we use, the colors, the layout, all that kind of fun stuff. So we're going to start in Illustrator. We might be jumping over to InDesign a little bit today. I'm not sure. Kind of depends on how it goes, but we'll have some fun with it. And today's live stream is sponsored by the Graphic Design Bootcamp. It's a course that I made to teach you guys how to be a graphic designer. So really cool stuff. Check it out at derekmitchell.com. You can also find it on Skillshare and on Udemy. And it's a ton of fun. So check that out when you get a minute. Also, while you're there, I've got some free tutorials, derekmitchell.com. You can click up here on the link to tutorials. There's some awesome free stuff you can find on YouTube. And then also you can join the newsletter right here too if you want to stay up to date on the latest happenings and what's going on, both with graphic design as well as stuff that I'm doing. So check that out. Where are you guys tuning in from? How's it going today? What's new? Happy Friday. It's Friday, right? Yeah, been one of those weeks. It's been a long week for me. A long, short week. So we had the holiday on Monday. And then on Wednesday, I went with my daughter's class to go for a bike ride on the Hiawatha Trail. Super cool stuff. And it's like a 15-mile bike ride. Let me see if I can pull this up. Yeah, so we did this. Super fun. So it used to be a railroad track, and they've converted it to a bike trail. So it's like a downhill slope almost the entire way. So we did that. It was a ton of fun. Super fun. The tunnel, there's like almost a 2-mile tunnel. It's pitch black. You have to wear headlights and stuff. And it was super, super muddy inside. So we just got trashed. It was a lot of fun, though. I was looking for pictures, but I don't see any. All right. Well, let's get to work. We are going to be working on this brand for the Third Bowl & Co. And here is the final logo of what we're going to be doing. So we've got the main logo here. Okay, so that's the full mock-up. We're going to do a text-only version where we just have the text here, the Third Bowl & Co. And then we're going to do this version, the T3B Co. logo, which is more of an abbreviated version. So that way they have options. This will be great on hats and apparel. And in fact, I've already been kind of mocking some stuff up for them. Let me pull this up real quick. All right, let's see. Third Bowl, presentation, exports. So having fun with things like this, just trying to build the brand and define how it's going to look. Let's see. Stuff like this. So these are all mock-ups and files that I got from Envato Elements. And if you guys haven't checked that out yet, you got to check it out. So all of those assets were downloaded from right here, Envato Elements. And then you just search for mock-up. So you could say like apparel mock-up. And then come down here to graphic templates, see more. And there's tons and tons and tons of great mock-ups that are all editable. So that's one way to do it. We'll get into that here in a little bit, but let's go ahead and finish wrapping up this brand. I just want to check in and make sure the audio sounds good, you guys. Yesterday I had some issues with the stream. So if you can hear me, let me know you can hear me in the chat. Say hello. Let me know where you're watching from, what you're up to. And also make sure that the microphone sounds good and you can hear me okay. All right. All right, let's jump in. Where do we want to start? Okay, so typically when I package a logo, I'll define the colors, which we've kind of already done up here. And I'm using Artboards and Illustrator, so I'll get into that here in a second, but we want to basically create all of these files. So Artboards and Illustrator, I hit Shift-O on my here, let me open up Visualize so you can see my keyboard shortcuts. There we go. Okay, so in Artboard, you've got the Artboard tool here in Illustrator on the bottom left window. And basically you can just click and drag and create files all on one canvas, okay? So I can export each one of these individually as a file. So that's what I'm doing, is I'm using Artboard so that way I can see everything in one place instead of having, in this case, this would be 5 different Illustrator files if I just had one Artboard per file. So this helps us export things a lot better once we get all done. What's up? Watching from Dubai. Is it Akshaya? Akshaya? I hope I said your name right. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for the comment. From Dubai. That's awesome. All right. So what we're going to do is I need to warm up a little bit, guys. I need to jump in here and get some things going. Also, let me see. I'm going to pull something up real quick. So I'm going to pull up a couple logo samples, and I can't remember where I put it, so I'm going to search for this file. This will do it. Perfect. Okay. Except for it's not synced. Let me sync that one. All right, I'm going to pull up just a couple things real quick so you can see this. And I know you can't see my screen right now. I'm looking in top secret files. All right, let's see a couple more. Good morning from Santa Fe. Hey, Linda, thanks for tuning in. I see you in the comments. Yeah, there is a lag. Oh, is the video ahead of the audio? Like, is my mouth talking and the audio not coming through at the right time? That's annoying. Curious. Here, I'm gonna clap. How far off is that clap from the audio? Is it really bad? All right, I'm just opening up a couple files real quick. There we go. Here's a good sample. Okay, so here are two samples of logos that I've designed recently. And typically what I'll do is I'll define the color, the details, the logo base font. And typically, even though I'll use a font as the base for what I'm doing, I tend to do something creative with it. So that way it's not just the font typed out, okay? Here's another example of the same kind of deal. This one has a lot more colors pulled out. So I'll define the color. And the way that I define these colors, oh man, it's unsynced. Okay, well, that's annoying. And I don't know if I can fix it while I'm streaming. Anybody know? Anybody out there, streamer, who can help me out? I'm using Ecamm Live. Actually, I'm using it through Restream though. Let me, I don't think there's anything I can do about it, unfortunately. I'm gonna try something real quick. So while I'm doing that, go ahead and comment in the chat where you're tuning in from. I see you from Santa Fe. I see you in Dubai. That's awesome. I'm streaming from Kalispell, Montana, near Glacier National Park, from my home. All right, what am I looking for? I'm looking for Restream, because that's what I use to broadcast through. I don't think there's any way for me to do anything while I'm live. Thanks, Linda. I'm going to try something. I don't think it'll kill the feed. I'm going to turn off my feed to Behance and then turn it back on. And hopefully I don't break anything. But if it goes away, I'll be right back. All right, let's see what happens. All right, it shows I'm back on. Did that fix anything? I'm just curious for future uses too. Quick sync. So what I did is I toggled the feed off and on in Restream, and I see there's probably a good like 20-second delay anyway from the actual live. Let's see what happens. We'll see what happens. So, okay, we'll let it kind of get back. Let me know in the chat if that did anything for us here, or if I should just keep. I'm just gonna keep going anyway, but hopefully it fixed stuff. There's Mr. Miles. Miles is our standard poodle. Still, okay, all right. Well, let's just go. Let's just get out of this. Let's just do it. Bummer, super bummer. We're just gonna do this then, because then you don't even need to see my face. All right, so let's. But let me pull the chat window back up so I can see if anything else weird happens. I'll be able to stay in touch with you guys. Thanks, Timothy. Thanks, Linda. All right, so this is an example of how I export my logos. So I usually create like just an icon version, a stacked version, a horizontal version. I like to give my clients options. And then I'll do what's called clear space. So typically I'll take something from the logo, in this case the letter H, and I'll use it as a way to measure a distance. And what's cool about doing it that way is when you scale, that space scales together. If I just use the same size for both, let's say, like an inch or just some random, 1 inch always, well then when you get down to the smaller sizes, it's way more space than you need because it doesn't scale. I don't know if that makes sense, but this is an example of what that would look like, okay? So then I define my clear space for my clients. And also, while I'm holding on the space bar to get my hand tool, that's my shortcut, you can see it freaks out on the app that shows my keyboard shortcut. So that's why it's flashing that space over and over and over. It's kind of annoying, but then you can see when I hit other keyboard shortcuts. So let me know if that's helpful. Okay, so then these colors, like lapis lazuli, midnight blue, biscay, charcoal, all these colors. So the way that I get these, I use an app called Cmyk. And I don't know if you can get it in the App Store anymore or not. I might have bought it from their site directly. And basically, yeah, Linda, it is. It's a cool way to use space. She's talking about spacing. I use shapes to space and measure all the time. When I need to know if something's the right size on one side and the other, I might draw a shape here and then clone it to this side if I want to make sure that my spacing is the same. And I know you can use the alignment tools, but there's some other ways where that can be really handy. Okay, but back to these colors. I use this app called Cmyk. When it's open, it shows up here in your options bar. Or actually, this is your, what is this across the top? I forget. Options bar is this thing in the app. Anyway, so when I click on this, I can sample any color anywhere on my screen. And when I do that, I can look at my history of the samples of the colors I've sampled, and you can see it names them. So I don't know. I think it's fancy. I think it's fun to do something like that. So that's what I do. I sample my colors, give them a name, then I can get my hex value. The hex value is a 6-digit number and letter combination that you use for web design. So then I can say, hey, if you wanted to use this exact color on a website, you would just use that code. And if you're going to print it and you want it to look exactly like this, you'd use this Pantone color. And if you're designing, here's your cyan, magenta, yellow, and black colors. So, for example, if I get this color and I open this up, I can see cyan, magenta, yellow, and black. So those match. And if I wanted to recreate this, let's say, I mean, obviously I could just sample the color because I'm inside of Illustrator, but let's pretend like I'm not. Let's pretend like I'm trying to make this color match somewhere else. I can pull open my colors. We're going to switch to the Cmyk sliders, and I can just key in the exact, so 99, and then 85, 36, 27. All right, and then I get the exact same color doing it that way. So there's lots of ways to work, but I like to do it this way so my clients, you know, no matter how they're using their colors or their brand, they can recreate things and have it match across the board. Okay, so then the next thing I do is, and I lost my comments. Hold on, let me pull these comments back up, guys. Sorry. Linda, is there a way to override the system? I'm not sure what you're talking about. Are you talking about the stream? Do I convert all paths to fonts before sending? Yes, I do. Now, typically what I'll do, Linda, so that's a great question. Okay, so the file I'm working with right now is Hydration Junkie Logo Editable Package. So all of this, I leave my text editable for me personally to use later or to update, and then I'll save a copy. So I'd save a copy, and then I'd highlight everything, Command A, right? And you can see all these are regular fonts right now. I'll come over here to Type, and then I'll go down to Create Outlines, or Shift Command O is your shortcut. And then everything turns into outlines, so it's no longer a font. So that way, if you send it to press, or if a client opens it and they don't have a font, it doesn't look all messed up. But all of these now are just shapes. They're no longer a font, okay? And do that before I forget and mess up my real file for my client. That'd be bad. All right, what else we got? What else? Okay, silly question. No, there are no silly questions. Akshaya, do I name the colors myself? So I think I just answered that by the time you asked that question, because I know there's a delay in the stream. But yeah, I don't I don't really know color names very well, which is why I love that app called Cmyk, because it does it for me. Like I would have no idea, like Keppel, like I had no idea that was a color, right? Eastern blue, tax break. There's a color for you, tax break. Can you? I don't know. Oh, the stream is delayed again. I was trying to look and make sure you guys could see. Hold on. Okay. Sorry, just making sure we're good. I'm all nervous now because the stream's being a little difficult today. All right. So yeah, that's how I come up with the names for the colors, is using the app called Cmyk. Yeah, that's Linda's wondering if I had a more clever way to do the outlines. That's how I do it. Just save a copy and outline everything. All right. Now, okay, so the next thing I want to talk about is the artboards themselves. So up here, I have the name of the artboard that says brand details. And this is just a font. Like this is just a text box. It's, come on. There we go. It's just a movable, like this isn't the actual name of the artboard here. This is me just giving it a name. Comparisons. We have the horizontal black. We have horizontal charcoal. Okay, so I name all of these artboards. This is just like a label that I put up there. But if I hit Shift O, which is my shortcut for, oh, interesting. Sorry, visualize, display. It didn't show my adjustment key. See if that fixes it. Let's see if I do that. Okay, that's better. Okay, Command Shift O. Okay, I think it's working now, so you guys can see my shortcuts better. Anyway, so I hit Shift O to get my artboard tool. Okay, and now I can see if I click on these actual artboards, I can actually resize this artboard, or I can look up here in the options bar and see that the width is 11 inches by 8.5. I make them this size so that way if I want to print it, it just prints really nicely on a letter size piece of paper from my desktop printer. And then I rename each artboard. So by clicking on it in the options bar with the artboard tool selected, I can give it a name. I can name it anything I want. It's going to come out default as like artboard whatever, right? Artboard 1, Artboard 2. So I can rename this anything I want. So then when it's all said and done, I have all these different artboards. And these artboards down here, I make the size. You'll notice if I were to take this letter H, remember over here where I define my clear space, if I were to grab this letter H, copy it over, rotate it, it should be the exact same sizing. Yep, because I use that clear space to define, yep, there it is, to define my artboards, okay? So when this is all said and done and you get everything all ready to go and I've got all my artboards named, then when I go to export, it's going to use the file name, which is Hydration Junkie Logo Editable Package, and then it's going to add to the end of it the artboard name. Where this gets really cool is when I'm all ready to go, I can hit File, come down to Export, and I can go to Export As, and I'm just going to throw this on my, oh, this is fine for now. So this is what I do. So then I have all these different files. So I've got the Illustrator files. So I've got the outlined, file that I'm working right now. And then I create a folder for my JPEG for the CMYK files that have the print colors. Then I use an RGB version where it's red, green, and blue for display colors and a lower resolution for on the web. And when I'm trying to make my window big enough you can see everything. And you can see it gives it the file name, and then at the end it adds whatever the artboard name was. Does that make sense? Okay, so I export all of these. So right now if I wanted to make a new folder, I'm just going to do it on my desktop so I don't mess things up. I'll just say, I'm just going to call this sample to delete or something. It doesn't matter. Oh, whoops, did it in the wrong spot. My desktop. There we go. And now if I export this, down here I've got the options, two things. The format, what kind of format do you want to send? So this is where I'd get the JPEG or the PNG. I'd use the artboards, and then I can either do all of the artboards or I can select a range. Like maybe I want to do artboard 1 through 3, so it'll do 1, 2, and 3. And then maybe I want to skip 4, 5, and then do 6, maybe 8 through 10. Okay, so you can get really, really specific on the exact files or the exact artboards you send out. Okay, or I could just say I want to do 1, like maybe just 1 artboard, whatever number that artboard is, okay? And a way to know what those numbers are, let me back up a minute. Over here, we have the artboards. So if you don't see this window, come up here to window, come down here to artboards, and it'll open this. And this is all of your artboards. So you can actually drag these artboards, the names of it, to rearrange which number it is. So let's say this gradient background right here. Let's say I wanted this to be artboard number 1. Well, I could just drag this all the way up to the top. And now that gradient background is artboard number 1. So when I go to export this, I would choose artboard 1 when I go to export it. Or if I drag it all the way back down here, now it's artboard 13. So if I wanted to export this, I'd go to File, Export, Export As. Let's say I just want this gradient background. I'd say Use Artboards, and Range, I just want to do number 13, which would give me just that gradient background. Does that make sense? All right, let me check the comments real quick. So make sure everything's still good. Yes, Linda, the app is called SIP, S-I-P. I know that was probably like 10 minutes ago you asked that. Let's see. You can embed the fonts in the PDF artwork. Yes, you can. Yeah, I gotta love live broadcasting. Yeah, I haven't had any issues in a while, but actually I take that back. Just my last stream, I use a Rode mixing board, and it sounded like robots had taken over. It was really bad. Oh well, carry on. So let's. So now that you know the entire process and kind of why and how I do things based on this, you can see that every time I do it, it's a little bit different, right? It doesn't have to be the exact same thing. In this case, I just had 2 icons to work with. We didn't define colors. I mean, I could have done a white version of this, but for now, that's all we needed. If I jump back over here, you can see we've got a ton of artboards. So for this new brand I'm building, it's going to be somewhere in the middle, okay? All right. And I have a hard time talking and thinking at the same time. So once we dive in here, I might get pretty focused and I'll just start going to town here. And I have the hiccups. Awesome. All right. There we go. Cool. All right. So let's, all right. I've got all these. I started this a little bit differently than the way that I usually do things. So let me, just for the sake of starting fresh, I'm going to move this stuff off the canvas. I'm going to come back to this file, and I'm just going to grab these. And when I copy it, Command C to copy. If I jump back over here, if I hit Command V, as in Victor, it's just going to paste it anywhere it feels like. No rhyme or reason. We'll undo that and move these guys out of the way. But if I hit Command F, as in front, it's going to paste it in front of anything else on the canvas. For example, Command F, you can see this came in front of that stuff. If I hit Command B, as in behind, now everything comes in behind whatever I pasted it into. But it still put it in the exact same spot as the other document. Does that make sense? All right. So let's put that up here. Command F, brand details. All right, so let's get the color lined out. Get SIP opened up here, and let's just sample this so I can get the color name. So it's Rosso Corsa. Rosso. Thinking like Rose. Whoop. ROSSO. And sometimes, of course, if I don't like the name, if it doesn't fit the brand, I might try and adjust the color just a little bit to get a different name, because why not? All right. Awesome. Over on Facebook, Alexander says it's fine. It must be talking about the audio. Yeah, every now and then Behance, the stream gets a little funny, and it is what it is. Also, I'm streaming on YouTube as well. There's a link below if you want to jump over to YouTube if for some reason. Although at that point, actually now, yeah, I am curious. If you guys are watching from, Hey, if you're watching from YouTube or Facebook, here's a quick sound clap. Just curious if there's a delay at all, and if there is, how big is it? Okay, here we go, back to work. Okay, so we got our color defined. What is this color? Let's sample that. And this is definitely extra, like you don't have to do it. Nero. But I think it's fun. I think it's these little extra details that make it fun and that separate you from the next person who just did whatever. Okay, so our hex, we have 10101. And a lot of times what I'll do, I know that this is what the color they want. And I also know that when I click on this color and I open this, it's not going to be the same. 11, 100, 103. Hex. Oh, it is the same because I already fixed this once before I started streaming. It wasn't quite the same when I first started. So the problem is, as soon as I click back over here to do anything, all of this detail goes away. So if you're building something and you're trying to remember what the color is, what I do is I'll take a screenshot of this window. So the way that works is, you can see this. I hit Command, Shift, and the number 4 all at the same time. And I'm going to get little crosshairs, which I know you can't see right now. Then I'll let go, and then I'll click and drag. And before I let go of the mouse, two things. I can hit the space bar to move it around. And again, I know you can't see my screen. I'm showing you what the hands do. And if I hold down the control key and then I let go of the mouse, still holding the control key, it's going to save that image that I just took to my clipboard, so then I can paste it into the document. If I didn't hold down the control key and just let go of the mouse, then it just saves it to your desktop. I hope that makes sense. It's kind of difficult the way I've got my setup to see everything at once. But anyway, so we're going to do that here. Same thing, Command Shift, the number 4. Click and drag over whatever on my screen I want to see. And this is where I was saying if I hit the space bar, I can move my selection around. And before I let go of the selection on my mouse, hold down the control key and then let go of the mouse. Now I can say, okay, the color picker goes away. And if I hit Command V, I paste an image of this box. This is just an image. This isn't the actual box. Because then, as I'm defining things, now I can look at this and refer to these numbers without it disappearing on me. So anyway, that's how I do that. Okay, this is not the right Pantone color. We have not defined a Pantone yet. So I'm just going to delete this. Let's get this color. Open this up. I'm just going to take a picture of these details here. And sometimes, if I don't like the number, or an example would be, let's say I have a shape here, and I want this to be like an easily remembered hex. For example, the red that is a 100,000, A1. 6. Did I do that right? 3. Yeah. I know that that's kind of a blood red, right? So, but what's easy about it is then I can remember this hex code. So there's actually some brands that I know of that actually use that color, A1 and then 0000. Just easy to remember. So, you know, maybe 212121, right? This could be like a gray color, right? Which is kind of what we've got going on here, 262626. So all that to say, let's say the hex came out as 262625. I might change it so it all matches. These are the tiniest little stupid details that honestly nobody, I don't know. It's what it is. So perfect case in point. When I click on this guy, the hex is supposed to be 262626. I open this up, but look, it's 262623. And that's because I don't know why that's because, but it happened. And let's make sure. So 71, 65, 64. So these numbers don't match either. 71, 65, 69, 69. So I didn't build this color. This is part of another brand that they have. And so interesting. So they've defined a CMYK color. They've defined an RGB color, which is 38, 38, 38. But look, 38, 38, 35. So it looks like, okay, the RGB and the hex value will match if I do that. If I'm going to go to press with it, the color needs to be a little bit different. So we're kind of in the weeds right now, guys, with stuff that is, I don't know, it's probably, what's the word? Unnecessary. But anyway, that's where we're at. Okay, so let's define, we've got the hex 2626 6. Cmyk is 71. The other thing I'll do sometimes is if something doesn't have any black in it, like in this case, this red has 1, like out of 100, it has only 1. And the reason why I might put just 1 in there, because if you do gradients and you have a little bit of every color, you'll get a smoother gradient, a smoother fade. Whereas if there's none, it'll almost kind of fade to white and then come back into the color. And so having just even 1 of the color represented really helps those colors blend better. All right, 71, 65, 69, and 69. Cool. I could define the RGB colors like they did up here. But the hex is going to do the same thing. So, and to define the Pantone color, I could define it just clicking on this color swatch and letting the computer do it. But we'll probably go in and pick our Pantones from a press, from a printer, so we get the exact color. Anyway, so we'll circle back to that. I can delete this. No, I can't. Did I get the right? Yeah. Okay. Cool. We got our colors defined. We could even, if you wanted to define white as part of the brand, so here's something. So I clicked all of this, shift click just this one square up here. So when I drag a copy down, I can visually snap that right into place and know, and delete that extra shape, that this content down here is the exact same. I mean, there's lots of ways to do it, but that's how I would do it fast to make sure it's all lined up. What's the easiest way to identify the Pantone color? Linda, great question. I will, let me finish my thought here. We can get back to this. So we got white. And what I would do to define white is I would just turn this into a stroke. So Shift X will flip my fill to a stroke, or my stroke to a fill over here. Okay. And then I could adjust the stroke. I could leave it that thick, but I like to make it a little more thinner. So we'll come over here. Half point. Okay. And then if it's white, there is no color, no magenta, no yellow, no black. It's all zeros. And the hex is going to be all F. Okay. So the way that hex colors work, the higher the number, 0 through 9, and then the letters A all the way through F, correlate to different colors. And so when they're all on at full brightness all the way, it actually turns to white because all the lights on your screen are on. If everything was set to 0, that's black. So anyway, that's another topic for another day. Linda, SIP, I don't know if it's available on an iPad. I haven't looked. It's an app that just runs in the background. Also, by default, I think when you save a screen, my mic is loose. When you save a screenshot using that Command-Shift-4 keyboard shortcut, there's a way, and I don't remember how, I'd have to Google it, but there's a way, I think by default on a Mac, it saves it as a PNG, or maybe it's there's a way to save it and change it to save from a PDF or from a PNG or a JPEG. In fact, it's probably, if I come up here to Finder, go to Finder, go down to Preferences. I can't remember if I did it in here, if I had to do it in Terminal. Advanced. Okay, maybe not. Anyway, there's a way to do it. Check it out. Google it if you need to. Okay, we got our colors. And I know we actually might be defining more. Okay, so I'm kind of getting ahead of myself because I know that we still have more brand to define. They might want to go with some gray and cream colors. So here's how I would approach that. I'd go to Behance and I would search for or GREY, gray. Try both ways, see what you get. And just kind of see if any of these colors I like. Okay, so here's an example. Like a cream color. I could also go here. Let's finish this thought. All right. Let's see if we get anything close. Okay, I'm not seeing what I want. We could also go to color.adobe.com. Super awesome resource if you haven't seen this yet. So we've got these options here, but we also have this menu across the top. Let's go to Explore. Could maybe borrow those. So if you find a color you like, you can actually save it or add it to your library and it'll immediately sync to if you use libraries from the Creative Cloud. So I'm just going to come back here and do it manually and just kind of guess. Let's just see what happens. All right, so Linda, thanks for sharing. See the link for the SIP app. I highly recommend it. I really like it. There's a few other apps that do the same thing. And I have one. Slurp, I think is what it's called. Right here, Color Slurp. I forgot, it's just chilling right here in my desktop. I just don't use this one as much. And I feel like it does just as good of a job. I don't think it has the colored names. But it does have this feature here where it shows the contrast Pro feature. So you can check the contrast between two colors with the contrast checker. Import, export collections, recent colors. So this might be one that you check out too if you're interested. They're, like I said, they basically do the same thing. So anyway, that's Color Slurp. Another good option. Okay. SIP. Let's see what color this is. Bright gray. It doesn't look very bright to me. We'll put it in there. I could just say gray. I don't have to get super fancy with it. And then they mentioned maybe a cream color. Let's see. I don't know. I need to spend more time with this. so looking at this color, I'm going to put 1% black in here, just so like that we talked about, where if we fade colors or do things, it works well. Yellow, magenta. Okay. E2cc. Okay. Take a screenshot of this before, whoops. Before I close it, hold on, control. I don't know if that color's gonna work, but I'll throw it in there for now. We can come back to it. Oh, I just realized I'm doing colors on so I've got monitors at my office that are more accurate for color, and I'm at my home using just an old crappy monitor. I just realized that. So hopefully this color, yeah, green white. Okay, well that's scary. Green white. Eesh. We might just rename this cream. I don't know. Okay, well, now you see the process. We can come back and define that and do all kinds of stuff with it later. All right. Adobe. So export palette details as a file. Actually, Linda, you can do that. As far as global changes, I don't know if I can do that with libraries or not. Depending on how you build your file, I think in InDesign you could. All right. Let's see. Got some colors. Let's get to it. I don't know if I. Okay. Here's how I'm gonna play with this real quick. Let's just see. Let's just see what happens. Ugh. So there's about 4 different people I need to run this by. So I'm doing a first pass at exporting this logo. Is it Tanya? Or Tanja, sorry. Let's see. I used an app called Cmyk. And Linda threw a link to that up above in the chat. Let me grab this. Let's open up that website. So here's the page. So it's cmyapp.io. And you can try it for free, but this is what I'm using. And then when you sample stuff, it tells you the name of the color. Pretty cool stuff. When you first install it, you're gonna have to give it permissions to see your screen. The Mac will restrict it from being able to do it, but if you go into your settings, you can give it permission. So, okay. All right, so now I'm just trying to figure out. Sorry guys, what I'm trying to figure out in my brain is if I want to do it like this, where it's just the two logos, just in, you know, without worrying about all the extra versions here. I might try that. Let's just keep going. Let's just see what happens. So I get my Artboard tool, Shift O, and then I can click and drag a copy by holding down the Option key. I'll click, Option, and then drag. It gets a copy, and then hold on Shift, and it snaps it. So it stays in place. All right, so now what we could do, let's colorize this with this cream color. Not sure if I'm digging it or not, but we'll keep going. Okay, now I got to fix this little period and make it that red still. So what I'm going to do is get my eyedropper tool and sample the red over here. So now it's loaded with red. I'll zoom back in over here, and then I'll hit the Option key to flip it from sampling to filling, and now to fill with whatever the color is that it's sampled. There we go. I don't know if I like it. I don't know if they'll like it, but we'll keep going. Okay. So now what we need to do is I need to make a version of this. What's up? I just realized, hey, everybody over on Facebook, I've been ignoring you, so I didn't have that chat window pulled up. Hi from Bulgaria. Thanks for tuning in. What's up, Dina? What's up, Brad's Gaming? Yeah. Sorry, I didn't hear it because I didn't have the volume turned up, so I didn't hear the little ping noise when you guys commented. My bad. All right, we're back. I can see you now. All right, let's see. So what I want to do now, we need to define clear space. Oh, okay. So really, I could use the height of any, these are all the same height. If I just change the color so you can see what we're doing here. I could use the height of this, the X height, we would call it. Doesn't matter which letter. So I could use the ampersand, the C, or the B. I might use the letter B because it's a bowl, right? It's a bowl company. So let's just copy this. Just gonna paste it down here. Let me change the color so I can see it. All right, so let's, I think I've changed my mind. There's just too much going on here. Let's move these off the canvas. Because we can define all those other colors later. Now we can play around with clear space. And make sure that when you're doing this, you've got the Smart Guides turned on. Command U or go to View down to Smart Guides. And because we're using the height of the letter B, we need to make sure we rotate it, okay? Stroke, let's make it light stroke. Let's add a dashed line to it. And I can't see what I'm doing, so I'm gonna hit Command H to hide my edges. And then hit the letter A. So this is still selected, you just can't see it. If I hit the letter V, the lines come back, so hit letter A for your direct selection tool. Now I can actually see the changes I'm making. So let's make this like, that's better. Okay, and then looking at my corners look good because of this option here. If I change that, you can see how they kind of line up weird. See how they kind of fall wherever, but by changing this corner setting, it aligns the dashes to the corners. All right, so that looks nice and tidy. Command H to bring back my guides. Okay, so now we're going to grab all this, Command G to group it, drag a copy over here, and before I scale this, I'm going to hit the letter S to get my scale tool. Then I'm going to hit the return key to open up my scale options. And scale corners and scale strokes and effects is selected. So when I do this, if I click OK and I scale this, it's also going to scale the effects. So if I zoom in, you can see how the stroked line changed width. Okay, now you want that to happen if you're scaling artwork and you want it to stay the same size. In this case, I want my dashed lines to stay the same. So there's two things I could do. I could either, when I go to scale, I could just turn that off. And now if I scale this down, well, okay, what did I do wrong? Oh, I did the wrong one. Scale corners. Scale strokes and effects needs to be turned off. There we go. So now if I were to scale this down, depending on your artwork, in this case, there's no effects and there's no strokes on this logo. So it stays fine and my dashed line stays the same. Okay. But that always terrifies me because I don't want to mess up my artwork. So I always leave this turned on. And just scale it down. Then I'll get my eyedropper tool and I'll sample the stroke and then I'll hit Option and paste this, and it pastes the color and the effects that are applied to it. So now we can see, if we look at the width here, oops, different color. So the width here is clearly different than the width here, right? And that's the point. The point is we want our clear space to scale. Okay. All right. I'm gonna do something with this. Let's jump back over to my other document and let's grab our other information. We'll copy it. Come back over here. Command F to paste it in front in the exact same place relative to the other document. All right, so this base font is called Jin. Cool. All right. So unfortunately, now I don't have room for the secondary logo the way that I designed this. So but I like that this is scaled larger. How do I want to do this? Let's save our work to begin with. Let's start there. I could just do a second one. So we'll call this artboard primary details. We'll call this secondary details. So I'm going to do, so it's in the same spot, shift click, we'll align it to this logo here, we'll scale it up a little bit so it's kind of the exact same weight. I'm going to hit Command X to cut it from this artboard. I'm going to come over to this artboard and click. So now when I hit Command F, it'll paste it right in front in the exact same place, so I know that these two basically match. Now the clear space on this logo, if I use the letter B, it's going to be pretty extreme. Here's what I mean. I copy this, paste it, let's change the color so we don't get confused. That's way too much. Way too much clear space. So what I might do is instead of using the height on this one, I might define it by the width. Okay, so if I rotate it this way, this will be better, and it still might be too much. See what happens. And honestly, like most people don't even follow these brand guidelines. It's like you hope they do, but they pretty much they don't. It's all right. All right, and with the little serifs or the little decorative points on this font, it kind of becomes difficult. That's all right, it doesn't have to be perfect. All right, let's see. So I'm going to select this stroke, option click on this stroke so it matches. We're going to group all this together. Click, shift click here. Let go, and then click one more time to say I want this to be the one that I align to. Align that down there. Gotta fix the corners on this thing. There we go. Cool. All right. Let's fix this diagram. Oops. So in this case, it's not the height, it's the width. There we go. I didn't like the word that example was getting left by itself down there. Orphans and widows. You got to watch out for those. In typography, do you guys know what an orphan is compared to what a widow is? Here we go. All right. Yeah, Linda says, gotta love the clients that stretch and squish the logo after you've put in all the usage specifications. Exactly. How are you keeping command space for use by Illustrator instead of having it jump to the Spotlight search? You gotta, okay, so if you hit command space, it goes to Spotlight. If you hold space command, then it doesn't. So it's space, then command, and then you get the zoom. If you go command space, you get Spotlight every time. So it's just flip flop which one you push first. All right. I think that looks good. I'm not sure about that color palette yet. All right, let's keep pressing on here. Cool. All right. moving on. So we've got those defined. We've got that logo. Got those. Okay, so now let's build artboards that are the exact clear space. Orphans and widows, the bane of newspaper text. Although, and I haven't used InDesign in a long time for that kind of stuff, but it's gotten so smart that you can pretty much tell it to not allow that to happen, which is awesome. So, an orphan and a widow. So basically, and Linda, help me keep this straight because my brain, one of them is when you have like a sentence hanging off by itself, right? The other one's like when you get like a word that just falls on to the next line by itself. I forget. I should know this. But I can't remember. Let's look it up. Let's do a this would be an educational moment. Is it typography? Would it be considered typography? Okay. A widow. Oh, there's Georgia. A widow is a paragraph ending line that falls at the beginning of the following page. So that's Georgia, my 1.5-year-old in the background, squealing for food. Okay, yeah. So what that means? So a widow is, let's say you've got a chunk of text, right? And then the last bit of text jumps to the next page at the beginning. We don't want to do that. We want to make it all stay together. And an orphan. Oh, that's not what I was thinking. A paragraph opening line that appears by itself at the bottom of the page. Is that right? Okay. Okay, this is what I was thinking. A widow is a single word or two very short words sitting by itself on the last line of a paragraph. Okay, there you go. Orphans and widows. That's what they are. So that's what I was fixing down here when the word example was hanging out by itself. All right, back to work. So we've got that defined. That looks good. I don't need this over here, so we're just going to delete it. Cleaning up our work as we go. Shift O to get my artboard tool. Let's just double check the names. Full white, T3B white. Now technically, okay, here's something we could talk about. Technically, I called this white when really the logo's black. So we probably want to call this black or full color because it's got the little red thing down here. Same thing here. It's full color even though technically it's just black and red, right? Because to reproduce this in print, we'd have to make it full color. All right, this guy would be full white and red. You could call it two color. And by full, I mean like the full, like the bowl and the text. I could call it primary. That might make more sense. I don't know, guys. I'm making this up as I go, clearly, so you guys can see that do whatever works for you in your workflow. Yeah. Linda says can't keep them straight either. That makes two of us. Perfect. All right, so this one, primary, white and red, T3B. I need to figure out the naming conventions on this. I don't know. And you have to be careful when you're clicking on these. See what I just did there? I don't know if you can see this, but it's really easy to accidentally add an extra artboard. I have to sneeze. Okay. Anyway, so right there's an extra artboard. Just hit Command Z to undo that. Oh, I have to be in. There we go. Command Z. Or come back over here to your Artboards window, and you can clean things up that way. You can double click in here and rename it and see which artboard is which. I'm calling it cream because that's what the client called it. When we used the SIP tool, it was like what? Green, white or something? I don't know. Technical details. Cool. So we got those. Yeah. So, yeah, I could call it black and spot. I could call it one color, two color. So many ways to do this. And it's going to be redefined. I know we're going to keep building this brand, so I'm trying not to get too hung up on it. But I also kind of want to get it right the first time. I don't like having to do things multiple times over. All right, so here, let me show you this trick. It's not really a trick. Let me show you this next thing that I do. And okay, here's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking about the clear space, and I'm trying to figure out how I want to do this. Because with these samples, for example, the zero dark, we grabbed the negative space of the letter A as our scale. Okay, so it didn't have as much clear space. And that's what I used to define these artboards. I've been defining this brand with letter size pieces of paper so I can print them easy. But I might want to consider changing that. Here's an example of both. So what I'm going through my mind is trying to decide if I want to leave them as a letter size piece of paper. Well, yeah, it's not going to be the right size anyway. Okay. I'm going to leave that for now. I might need more coffee, I think is the problem. I can't think straight. So if you're new to the stream, my wife just had a baby about 6 weeks ago. So we got a fresh baby in the house and a 1.5-year-old in the house. And so sleep is a premium. We're pretty sleep deprived. So barely keeping the wheels on here. All right. What I'm trying to decide is if I want to just grab this here and just like build out my clear space again and then resize the artboards, right? To like snap it into place like that. Or, and that was the width, not the height. That was the wrong clear space. Or like do it again. So grab, probably the fastest way is to grab like this guy, drag him out, make him big-ish. Shift O to get an artboard tool, and then just draw an artboard that's the exact right size. So this is what, 9.25 and change by 6.32 and change. Okay. And then I would delete, group these, change the music, maybe change the music again. All right. So now I know that this artboard and the clear space are exactly what I defined. Okay, so I could export this, and then when you export like a PNG, the file is going to be this size, so it'll make it easier to work with. Does that make sense? All right. Uh-oh. So I'm just kind of showing you guys two different ways to work here. Lots of ways to do the same thing. So it's going to be faster instead of doing all that work again. Oh, I hate doing extra work. Oh well. Work smarter, not harder, right? In this case, I'm working harder and dumber. Okay. Those. Cool. All right. Now I know these are perfect. What application am I using? I am currently using Adobe Illustrator. All right. Save your work. Oh, hey, this is something else that's worth noting too. So if I triple click, maybe double click. Did I double click? Yeah, double click will do it. Okay, you can get the artboard options. So there's some other things too, like showing crosshairs in the middle of your canvas, or showing the video safe areas, or showing the center mark, which I've always wondered. When I make a new document, file, new, and I make a video, and I create it, and it looks like this, and I'm always like, how do I make it not look like this? I don't want this when I was designing stuff, but I'll bet if I double click here, and I take all of this off, all right, we still have options in here that I don't like. I don't know, I'll figure it out. Anyway, there you go. More ways to work with artboards. Okay, let's go back to work. Let's get this done. Okay, so we've got our T3B color. Okay, the other thing we haven't defined yet, I almost forgot all about it, is just the text version. I feel very motivated by this soundtrack right now. I feel like I'm training for a fight or something. Akshaya, if I said your name right, I hope so. Yeah, I do mockups, and in fact, in the last few streams I've done, you'll see how I did that. I like to use Envato Element. Some of them I do by scratch, and if you check out Skillshare, you search for my name, Derek Mitchell, you'll find I actually have a course that I just launched about how to do mockups and how to create them yourself from scratch so you can sell them on marketplaces like Envato Elements, the Creative Market, or how to like download them and do it yourself. So for example, here's some mockups I just did with this logo. So these are banners for like a trade show. So these are just just fast, just kind of seeing what the brand might look like. These are done in Photoshop. Here's a mock-up of like an embroidered tag and what that could look like. Pretty cool. Illustrator does not do video. It's more so like if you were mocking up graphics. If it does do video, that's new for me, but Photoshop does. If you go to Photoshop, I'm in Photoshop right now. And if I come here to the window, and then I come down to timeline, it actually opens up a video timeline. So you can actually design or edit video in Photoshop. Pretty cool stuff. By design, I mean like you can animate, you can like color stuffs. So this is the kind of music I listen to when I like really need to focus, but it's pretty aggressive for me trying to talk over the top of it. Let's find a new track. Okay, timeline. Turn that off. So some mock-ups there, and then here's some more mock-ups I did. This is a surf brand that I made just for fun, and I did a mock-up of that on a surfboard and on a hoodie. So if you want to see that, the replays are actually both live on Behance and on YouTube. So if you're not already, be sure to hit the follow button on Behance, follow my work, and you get notified when I go live, and you can check out all the live streams. And then on YouTube as well, if you subscribe and then tap the bell for notifications, you'll get notifications every time I go live. All right. What were we doing? Let's go back to Illustrator. I was defining clear space. Is that enough? That should be enough clear space. It's time for me to update my music. So I use Epidemic Sound for my music because then I can stream it royalty free or whatever they call it, rights managed. I don't know. Without getting in trouble, I can stream it. But I need to make a new playlist because, yeah, it's time. Okay. All right, there's that. Shift O to get my artboard tool. Come back to this later. So the video thing in Illustrator, Linda, so if I go to File, New, and this happens in, so this is the new document window in Illustrator. And the same thing, you can have the same thing in Photoshop. Let me jump into Photoshop, do the same thing. We'll go to File, New. This is the Photoshop new document window. They're very, very similar. And what I want you to notice is across the top, they've got default files to kind of help you get exactly what you're looking for. So you could create something from scratch right here and set everything however you want it. Or these are the recent files that I've used, file types. But let's say I go to film and video. Now I'm in Photoshop right now. There are some default video sizes, right? So if you're designing a graphic like a lower third, or when I make my courses and I design like the front intro title, and I might want to mock it up using this. Okay, that's one way to work. If I jump over here to like print or even web, you'll notice below these template sizes, which if I click on it, it changes all my settings here. But if I scroll down, there's actually some really cool free templates that you can use to get started. Okay, so this is in Photoshop. What I did that was kind of confusing, I jumped into Illustrator, and then I went over here to film and video, and I clicked on this 1920 by 1080 just to get my document settings correct. And if I scroll down, you can see there's some more templates you can click on here as well. The more settings. There it is. Okay, so this is what was driving me nuts. Film and video, down here to more settings. Turn off the transparency grid. Okay, well, this is where you would do it. You can dial in things, but I'm going to go ahead and click create document. So what this shows you is if you're designing graphics, so a real good case in point would be, let's say I'm making a lower third. For my videos or something. Super basic. I can see, so if I were to export this, depending on the software you're using, you might export the whole screen. So that's why it's showing you the transparency grid for this document, and you want it to be in the safe zone. So these guides kind of tell you, depending on, this was a bigger problem. It's still kind of a problem, but it was definitely a bigger problem when you had like the 4:3 televisions and then now the 16:9, and depending on if they were zoomed in or out, like you didn't want any words to get cropped off if they're too close to the edge. Kind of like printing. You don't want your stuff to get too close to the edge and then to get chopped off. So these safe zones just kind of tell you where to put your stuff. Hey kiddo, what are you doing? Say hi. I gotta hold that thought. Come here. All right, this is Georgia. Say hi. Right there. What you got there? Ooh. This is yummy. Daddy. All right, I gotta get back to work. You want to see Mama? Curly. All right, be right back. All right, I'm back. Yeah, that's Georgia. Derek Jr. I do have a Derek Jr. now. His name is Declan. Best part of the live stream. Oh, thank you. Although, I don't know how I feel about that. What the heck? What about me? It's all right. The video samples I had look like they're in motion. Oh, yeah, it could have been. Okay, anyway, we are way off track. That's all right. So there you go. This would be why you would use a transparency grid and all this extra stuff for video in Illustrator, which doesn't super make sense. So, all right, let's close that, don't save it. All right, so what I was doing now is defining the clear space for this third bowl and code, just the text. I gotta find, oh, I just like how this is larger. Let's see, how do I want to do that? We're just gonna, I'm making this up as I go, guys, clearly. That's all right. Line that to the bottom so it's all nice and tidy. By the way, thanks everybody for hanging out with me today. It's always fun when there's people in the stream commenting and asking questions. I love that. It helps me know what to tell you guys, because otherwise I just sound like I'm talking to myself, like a crazy person. So it's always fun getting to say hi and engage with everybody here. Georgia wants to come back and say hi now. And I'm probably spending way too much time on this. but it's fun. I don't know. I like building brands and setting things up. This is way too much. I kind of don't care though. Cool. I think that works. That works. Tiny, but that'll work. All right. So right now I'm just trying to kind of show the possibilities with these colors. Because currently I have not used, and I don't know if I will use, this lighter gray color. I just don't know if it has a place in this brand. So, is it Akshaya? Sorry, I'm butchering your name. The Artboard Size, I typically start on a letter size piece of paper. And that's because it's easy to print. So like this main details page is just 8.5 by 11. And vector art, you can scale it. So if I open up, let's see. Like when I first started building this brand, let's go to, here's a very early look at what this brand was. And I started like this on, I just started throwing stuff down, like just all kinds of crazy stuff, right? And then these are all samples that I did on 8.5 by 11. This brand has had a lot of iterations. So Tried all that kind of stuff. Tried lots of different looks and different colors, right? Tried exploring different horn stuff. Lots and lots and lots. Just, you know, so basically on Illustrator, this giant gray area is all fair game, right? So it's huge. And then all these are just 8.5 by 11. So it doesn't really matter, like, at all what size you start with, because it's all vector. You can just throw it anywhere. So then once it's time to like publish this thing, for example, here's another brand. This is 8.5 by 11. And then these are just based on the clear space. So whatever I defined for the brand is what I use for the canvas size. So in this case, if I hit Shift O, click on this to see my artboard, up here in the window, I can see the width is 6 inches, almost 7 inches wide by about 3 inches tall. And I mean, I could make it exactly like, Georgie's getting into pens and pencils back there. Anyway, I could make this like exactly 3 inches by, I don't know, 8 inches or 7 inches or whatever. Not that it doesn't matter, but it kind of doesn't matter anymore, because the way that I send these to my clients, this is a large enough file, they can do anything they want with it. And it's vector, so it just scales, you know, after the fact if you need to scale it up. So hopefully that makes sense. So these artboards are not 8.5 by 11 anymore. 7.8 and change by 5.3. So I made them based on the clear space. This. Cool. All right. Hopefully that answers your question. So the other thing I could define too, is just not much different at all. But for example, this is white and technically a full color, because that red, to reproduce this little red dot in here, I'd have to use cyan, magenta, yellow, and black. So it's technically a full color print just because of that tiny little dot. So I could also make a version that's truly a one color white. Okay, so now it's a one color. If I had to actually use this, it's just one color. White on whatever the surface is. In this case, it's got a black background. Okay. And then same thing here. I could make this a one color. Technically though, if I look at this, same thing. Cyan, magenta, yellow, and black to make this. If I truly wanted this to be one color. Is the music too loud, guys? Turn it down a little bit. So now this is only one color. It's just black, 100% black. Doing? What are you doing? Oh. Nice. So technically this is a full color. Primary full color, primary one color black, primary full color white. I don't know if that even makes sense. I don't know, guys. I think I'm overthinking this, so it might be time to shut the stream down here pretty soon and take a break. We'll pick it up here in a minute. Okay. We are pretty darn close here. Pretty darn close. So quick side note, if you're working with black, in this case, I have 100% black and Illustrator is trying to help me out. I don't want its help. I want this to be what the heck, Illustrator, you're killing me. So Illustrator is trying to be smarter than I am, and it is, but that's okay. So here's what's going on. When you work with black, if you just use 100% black in the color here, so zero, actually, let me go to my preferences because I think that's where it's appearance of black. So Illustrator preferences down to appearance of black. Okay, so this is 100K, so 100% black. See how it's kind of gray? It might be difficult to see on the stream. And this is rich black. See how it just looks richer and like black like you would expect? So make sure you've got display all blacks accurately. You don't want to display them all as rich black, and output them all accurately. So it should be fine. I'm not sure why it's saving it back to this for me. Let me try something else. Uh-oh, she's squealing. It's almost nap time. I should probably shut this down soon. I'm just going to say 50%. Click cancel. One more time. Click OK. Okay, so that's 50% black. Let me put this. Oh, but it's rendering out. Why is it doing that? I have no idea why. I might need to restart Illustrator, or there's a setting somewhere. Document setup. That looks good. Let's go to color mode. Oh, that's probably right there. This whole time my document has been in RGB. Let's jump back over to Cmyk, and maybe we'll have better luck with everything we're doing. Maybe not though. Who knows? Let's see. Okay, it's being persistent, and I have no idea. Thanks, Linda. I appreciate that. Have an awesome day. Also, you guys, the replay will be available. So if you want to come back later and like fast forward through all this nonsense and see how we go, you can do that too. All right, what I'm trying to show you, and I don't know why. Usually I have better luck with InDesign with this kind of stuff, but if you're trying to be really specific with your colors, there. Okay, my colors, it's just something happening over here. Anyway, 100% black. All of this, all I'm trying to show you is if I wanted to print this and truly make it one color, you would then only use one color in whatever you're defining it, okay? So one color, black. Now the opposite, if you want this to print really rich and black, you got to do full color. So my formula that I like to use is 60, 40, 40, and 100. Okay. So that's a really, really rich black. You got to be careful though, because if you saturate too much, so right now this adds up to 100, 240%, right? 60 plus 40 is 100, 240. If I were to scrub these all the way up, you get what's called like ink lift, where it doesn't even dry. Like if you run this through the printer, like there's just so much ink that it won't dry correctly, and it'll stick to other things, right? And it'll lift off the page. So double check with your printers before you print something to make sure what the maximum threshold is for the ink. But I like to use 60, 40, 40, 100 for my rich black. So it actually looks really black when you print it. All right. All right. I think I have defined everything. I think we're good. I could clean this up a little bit more. Not all of my spacing between the artboards, like on this actual document, they're not all quite the same. I don't think it matters too much, but if I was being really, really particular about it, I'd make sure that the spacing between all my artboards matches up. So, excuse me. All right, so let's all right. I never used this color, and I haven't defined the Pantone colors yet, so I'll have to come back to that. But this is far enough. Let's go ahead and export this now. So here's the process. For some of it, I'm going to go to File, Export, Export As, and then I'll do my JPEGs and PNGs from there. For some of it, I'm going to do Save As because there's different file types in the different menus. So for this first one, I'm just going to hit Save. Let's see. Let's make a new folder. I'm just going to throw it on my desktop for now because I'll move it later. Uh-oh, nap time for Georgia. All right, so in my finals folder, we're going to make a new folder called AI. It's my Illustrator files. Okay, so come up here. I'm going to go to File, Save As, Third Bolt & Co. logo, Final. Let's try that again. We'll save it in there as an Illustrator file. We'll click Save. Click OK. Then so to answer your question in the chat, speaking of RGB, what color mode do you design your logo in? Do you design RGB and Cmyk separately? I honestly, typically, I just start a new print document and it opens up as a Cmyk file. I don't really think too much about it. If I'm in Photoshop, I almost always start an RGB because of the way the colors interact together with layer styles and blend modes. In Illustrator, I'm almost always in Cmyk. This time, I don't know what happened, but it happened to be an RGB. Not that it doesn't matter, but typically I design in black and white first anyway to make sure the shape is right, and then I work with color. So almost always I'm designing logos with the thought of it being for print, so I'm typically in Cmyk when I do that. So anyway, all right, let's see. So we saved this as an Illustrator file. Now I'm gonna hit Command A to highlight everything on here, which most of it's already outlined anyway, but this kind of stuff is still a font. So I'm gonna go to Type, Create Outlines. So now everything is a shape, everything's outlined. That way I know that nothing's going to get messed up if the right font isn't installed. I'll go to File, Save As. Same place, and I'm going to call it Final Outlined. We'll save it in there. Okay. Now I'm going to hit Command Z to undo that. And I'm not going to save it, so that way that file stays how it is. Then we're going to go to File, Save As. Let's go up a level. Let's make a new folder called PDF. And this is no longer outlined, so let's take that out of the title. And we'll preserve Illustrator editing capabilities. I'm not going to compress it. We'll leave all this. This is all fine. That's all good. We'll save PDF. So there is a way. So right now when we do that, it's all in one PDF. So you can see there's 17 pages because it made each page one of the artboards. So something we could do to clean this export up a little bit, you'll notice that it kind of jumps around, is we can come back in here to our artboard layers and we can rearrange these so it makes more sense. So right here, primary details. I want this to be my very first artboard. So the primary details comes first, then secondary. Then, let's see. Put all the primary stuff together. Then we're going to do the T3B stuff. And the text only. Cool. So now it'll sort in order on the PDF the way I want it to. When I open up this document, you can see the pages, the order they're in now. So we'll close that. I'll just go ahead and delete it. Try that again. File, save as, PDF, save it. And I think there's a way to do, okay, so now let's check this out again. Now everything, yes. Everything seems to be in order. All right. Next, I noticed that my red background down here is not just barely a sliver of white. It wasn't the right size. So we'll fix that real quick. That's better. Okay. Cool. So the other thing I did, little detail, is if I were to center this logo, it doesn't feel centered because it's centering this little trademark symbol too, which actually, interestingly enough, is still a font and didn't get outlined in the process. All right, so we'll need to take care of that. But what I did is I aligned this visually. Right, so that way the gap from the box is the same, not from the trademark, if that makes any sense. All right, cool. Let's export. Let's see, we did the PDF. I think there's a way. We're gonna go to File, down to Scripts. No. Oh, it got moved. I'm thinking of the artboards in Photoshop. That's what's going on. Okay, I was going to try and do artboards to PDFs, so it wasn't just one file. It was each one separately. Let me see. Let me see if I can do it in here. No, so Akshaya says, thanks for answering my amateur questions and for the tips and tricks. Thanks for the new follow. I really, really appreciate that. No, there's so much to know. I've been doing this for over 20 years and I still don't know everything. So no question is a dumb question. Like, you got to ask. If you don't ask, you won't learn. So definitely ask. I love it when you guys ask questions. What I'm trying to do is export each one as a PDF. And I know there's a way to do it and automate it, but I'm thinking about it in Photoshop. So I'll have to come back to that later. So what we'll do now, let's just jump back here to the finals folder. Let's make a new one for our PNG files. We'll create that one. We're using a file format of the PNG. It stands for Portable Network Graphic, and it supports transparency. So let's use artboards. We're going to use all of the artboards. Let's just run it and see what happens. We're going to do it as a high resolution file. So right here, this is a really important step. By default, the background is going to be white. I like to change it to transparent, which doesn't do anything for us for any of these that have a background color, but for the ones that have a blank background, it'll make it transparent. So let's click OK. It'll run, spit all of these out separately. So now you can see it made all of these files. So the ones that have a white background, if I hit the spacebar to preview it, you can see it's actually transparent. Super cool. Where it gets a little weird is on the details pages. You don't really need it to be transparent, but it is. It's all good. You can see how it's transparent. Okay. And then if it had a background color, that background color comes with it. I always get to this stage and then I get terrified that I have a spelling error or something stupid. All right, file, export, export as. Different song here. Back to my finals folder. So we did AI, PDF, PNG. Let's do a JPEG. We're going to call this JPEG Web. Use artboards, all the artboards. Export. Because it's for the web, we want to do RGB colors. The resolution, I'll bump it down to medium. I used to do screen at 72 to make it really small, but anymore with these really high density screens, it's nice to make sure that it still looks good. And this is really important too, this Icc Profile. So what this is it makes it so it embeds a color profile so that way the colors look similar across multiple devices. So whether you're using an iPad or an Android or a PC or a Mac, all the colors, especially reds are a really difficult color. It looks different across all the different displays. So this reduces the amount of colors and makes it, compresses it in a way that it's more likely to look the same across the board. So now let's do this again. We'll go File, where are we at? Export, export as. Let's jump back up here and we'll do Jpeg Print. Same thing, file format's JPEG, use artboards, but this time in the export menu, we're going to leave it as Cmyk. Make sure it's maximum, make sure the resolution is cranked up to high. And also this Icc Profile, the US web coded swap, this is for print. So that way when it prints, it has the best chance of looking exactly like we intend it to, as far as the colors are concerned. All right, so it's going to export all those. Let's jump back over into our parent folder here. Okay, so here's the biggest difference. If we look at this first file, the print file is 1.4 megabytes and it's larger. The pixel size is larger. If we go to the web version, it's only 131 kilobytes, so it's significantly smaller. Still looks good though on screen. Print, much larger. I don't know, let's see if the red looks... Sometimes the Cmyk file will look kind of faded on your computer versus the vibrant reds that'll look when it's set up for RGB. Cool. All right, so we got all of those. I think we're almost done. The last file type I'll go to File, Save As. Actually, back this up. Command A, type, create outlines. That way these little trademarks are all outlined. File, Save As. And we're going to do an EPS, which stands for Encapsulated Postscript. It's much like Illustrator. It's vector. But the difference is, depending on who you have produce your stuff, maybe they aren't using the Adobe Creative Suite. And an EPS file, let's make a new folder, EPS, will retain that editability, but you can open it with other programs besides Illustrator. Artboards, all save. All this should be fine. Click OK. EPS. So now each one of these is created as an EPS file, and Illustrator can actually open an EPS file. So you could actually open any one of these as an Illustrator document, and you can see it retains its vector editability. Do whatever you want to it. So there we go. All right, guys, that's pretty much everything. That's it. So I'm going to take a break. And then I'll come back. I got some more work to do. I'll be streaming here in a minute, doing some more fun things. But thank you so much for tuning into this stream. Had a lot of fun. Be sure to, if you learned something new, hit that little like button down below. Make sure you follow if you're on Behance, or subscribe if you're on YouTube. And that's pretty much it, guys. Have an awesome day if I don't see you later, but I'll be back on the stream here in a bit. So I'm going to take a break, grab some food, and then we'll get back to it. All right, guys, we'll talk to you soon. All right, guys, thanks for watching today. Hope you learned a lot of valuable information, and I appreciate you sticking around to the very end. But before you go, just a couple things I want to remind you. The first is, if you haven't already, feel free to like this video if you can, depending on where you're watching from. Give it a thumbs up, or subscribe, or tap the bell, or give it a follow if you can. And also maybe even just copy the link up in the browser and share it with a friend, or post it to your Facebook page. I'd really appreciate that. But again, just want to say thanks for sticking around, and I'd love to continue going live as much as possible and helping you guys out. So the best way that I can help you is by you commenting on the videos below. I read those comments. I engage with them as soon as I can, if I can, when I see them. So if it's live, I'll try and answer you right away. If this is a replay, you can still comment on the video, and I go back and I read those. So I just wanted to say thanks again for watching, and let me know what you're working on. I'd love to help you out, and hopefully we will see you in the next live. And to be sure you don't miss it, like this video and subscribe and follow and do the things. All right, guys, thanks for watching. We'll talk to you later.